Hello all, my name is Prabhakar. I'm making a series of videos available to you to learn Amazon Web Services, and in this session I'm going to talk about Amazon RDS Aurora DB instance. Here is a content for today's session and the brief about AWS RDS, and inside the lab, so I'm going to talk about RDS Aurora DB instance. First of all, let's see that what is RDS Aurora. So Amazon Aurora is a relational database service developed and offered by Amazon Web Services, and it is a MySQL and PostgreSQL compatible relational database built for the cloud that combines performance and availability of traditional enterprise databases with the simplicity and cost-effective solution for the open source databases. It is up to 5 times faster than standard SQL databases and 3 times faster than PostgreSQL databases. It provides security, availability, and reliability of commercial databases at 1 by 10th of the cost. And Amazon Aurora is fully managed by Amazon Relational Database Services, and which is RDS, and which automates time-consuming administration tasks such as hardware provisioning and database setup and patching and backups. So Amazon Aurora features a distributed, fault-tolerant, and self-healing storage system that automatically scales up to 64 terabyte per database instance, and it delivers high performance and availability with up to 15 low latency read replicas. So let's go to the lab and check that okay how to create and set up a RDS Aurora instance. Here is my AWS management console. You can go to services and type RDS, Relational Database Service. And as I discussed in my previous video sessions, I already covered how we can create RDS instance for the MySQL and PostgreSQL. And this session I'm covering Aurora instance. You can refer the previous instance. I have specified those links in the description below. So here I'm selecting standard configuration, and with DB engine is Amazon Aurora. So after that, so you can select okay which community compatible edition you want to select, MySQL compatible or PostgreSQL compatible, and it is faster than MySQL. Amazon Aurora is faster than MySQL 5 times and 3 times faster than PostgreSQL. So I'm selecting here is MySQL compatibility version, and the version is selected here, and you want regional access or the global access. I'm selecting as a regional access here. And coming to the database features, okay, you want one write and multiple readers, and one write, multiple readers, and the parallel query, and the multiple writers and serverless. There are various options are available, and based on our requirement we can select that. And coming to the template part, okay, if I want to use this Aurora for the production deployment, okay, so if I select production as a template, so automatically it increases and select the mission type with this 2 CPUs and 16 GB RAM and 3500 Mbps of the speed on the EBS. So for this demo I'm selecting dev testing, but still so it will select the instance is R file large, okay, that we can modify it. So, and coming to the DB instance names, okay, here, so I'm selecting the cluster identifier as, so if I say Prabhakar, okay, and if I say DB is this one, so DB cluster, okay. And a credential point of view, I am specifying it as admin, and password point of view, I'm specifying some random password here. And you can also replicate the same password here. Okay, so after specifying these all credentials, okay, you can go down below, and here you can select the DB instance size here. So by default, it is recommended is R file large with 2 CPUs and 16 GB RAM. And for the demo purpose, I'm selecting the lower one for reducing the cost. So here I'm selecting the T2 small with 1 CPU and 2 GB of RAM. Okay, and coming back to the below option is availability zones. Okay, so I can create Aurora replicas. Okay, so that in a multiple A to Z zones, so that so it increases the availability of your DB instance. But the demo purpose I'm selecting as option as a don't create Aurora replica here. And coming to the connectivity point of view, here I'm using a default virtual private network private connection here. And coming to the additional connectivity configuration, it is very important part here. And I'm going to connect my Aurora instance from my local machine. Okay, so that's why I'm marking it as publicly accessible. And choose an existing security group, and we can also choose the existing security groups. And here I'm creating a new security group. Here is AWS and Aurora and security group. And why this is required, because it will actually open a certain ports for the inbound and outbound traffic. So based on that inbound outbound traffic, okay, so it will allow us to connect to database and then pass the data between these open ports. And availability zones, we can select a multiple zones here. So but I am selecting the zone is US East 1E. And here is a default port for Amazon Aurora 3306. And we can go ahead and we can modify it as per our requirement. And please make sure that, okay, this port should be unique. Okay, and go down below. Here is the additional configuration. And for this additional configuration, these are the settings already pre-filled. So here the DB name, so I'm selecting as Prabhakar, and DB is the name of my initial database name. And there are some additional configuration in terms of backup. Okay, for this demo I'm not selecting this backup option here. So because if I enable this backup option, so for every 1 day, so it will take the snapshot of my database. Okay, and I don't require any encryption of my data. Okay, and I don't require any monitoring logs here. So if I enable all these logs, automatically it will add additional cost. Okay, so for this demo instance, I'm not adding any additional logs and any additional settings on that. So if you are working on any production instance, and it is recommended to use the automatic backup and encrypting the data, and then also enable the monitoring on that. So, and the maintenance point of view, so here, so whenever if there is new version of the DB instance is available for the minor version, then it will automatically upgrade that. Okay, we don't require to actually put the instance inside down. Amazon RDS will automatically take care of everything on this. So and the below one is so we can go ahead and then create the maintenance window here. So if I want to put any maintenance and notification on this, so I can go ahead and then select the maintenance downtime on this. Okay, so for this demo instance, I don't require any downtime for that. Okay, and coming back to these instances, so if I go here on the bottom of the window, okay, just wait a second. So here is I have created a cluster here. If you see that the cluster, so inside one cluster, I can keep multiple DB instances on this. Okay, so an Amazon Aurora DB cluster that contains one or more DB instances here. So if I go here and then for the explanation purpose, if you see that, so I have one cluster, and once cluster I can keep multiple DB instances on that. And a cluster volume that manages the data for those DB instances. Okay, so an Aurora cluster volume is a virtual database storage volume that spans the multiple availability zones, and with each availability zone having a copy of the DB cluster data on that. Okay, so it will by default it will create a cluster, and inside a cluster, so it will create a one more DB on that. And if required, we can add one or more DB instances. Okay, so on the same cluster. So and all the configuration is fine. So now I don't require this option. Okay, and go ahead and then create the DB. Okay, so I don't require to it will not allow me to use the underscore here for the validation purpose. I'm using it as a hyphen. Okay, you can go ahead and then create the database now. So it will take a couple of minutes. So in order to launch the cluster and in order to so launch the instance. If you see that here, this is the my DB cluster here, and so inside the DB cluster, I have an instance. Okay, instance one is the one which I'm running. So instance one is running here, creating that, and at the same time, once the cluster is created, then under the cluster, so it is going to be create the DB instance for me inside that one. Okay, so it will take a couple of minutes. Okay, so you can also see the warning message, the message from the AWS RDC. RDS is your database might take a few minutes to launch. Okay, now cluster has been created successfully and its status is available, and now it is creating the DB instance under the same cluster, and again it will take another couple of minutes to launch the instance. By the time, so I will explain what are the options and what are the configurations available for the cluster here. So if I select a cluster, okay, there are two endpoints for the cluster. Okay, so one endpoint is for the DB instance and one endpoint is for the cluster here. And managing the IAM roles, and it is a very important part here. We can grant the access as per the IAM rule, and we can also grant the access as per the cluster. And now, so I have a cluster DB here, so it will maintain the multiple databases DB instance. Now I want to share it with my other colleague who is actually using Amazon AWS account, and with a different account, and he's not a part of so inside my AWS instance. So I can go here, and I can specify the account ID of AWS, and so that guy can get the access on that. Okay, this is how we can share the DB instance access across the different AWS accounts. So, and let's go here and then check that, okay, whether the instance is running or not. Okay, and still it is taking some time to launch the instance. And coming to the going to the DB instance here, so its status is a creating. That's why endpoint is not generated along with the port, and the network options and security options and monitoring tools. All these all already discussed in my previous previous videos in MySQL and PostgreSQL videos. So I have specified those links in the below. You can go ahead and then check that. And so let's check one more time. Okay, what is the status of this instance? Okay, still it is creating the instance. Now both cluster and my DB instance both are ready, and the status is available. So just go to the DB instance and inside Aurora. So here if you see that I have an endpoint, you can copy this endpoint, and so I have created this Aurora instance with the MySQL compatibility. So for that, so if you see that, okay, so public accessibility also I have enabled that. So you need to check that. Okay, so sometimes if you forgot to enable this option, you can go to modify section and you can enable it again. And just copy that and go to MySQL Workbench. And this is the tool which I'm using it for connecting to RDS Aurora DB instance. Click it here, and I'm specifying it as Aurora, AWS Aurora. Okay, and here is the host entry which I'm copying it as an endpoint, and the port is 3306. And again you go ahead and then cross check it one more time, 3306. Yes, and after that so you can go here, and then username is admin. Okay, and if you click the test connection, it will prompt you to enter the password. You can enter the password here. Okay, it is successfully connected that. Now I'm storing my password inside of my store keychain. You go here and then enter the password again, save the changes, and now you click on OK. So it will create a connection for me. Here is my connection. If you double click on this, so it will open a SQL editor for that Aurora DB instance, so where I can perform the SQL operations on that. Here is a DB instance which I have opened. You can cross check that, okay, whether this instance is the same that which you are expecting that. Okay, you can click on session, Here is the instance host, and here is the port for that. Okay, you can cross check and compare that. And now initial DB which I have created is the Prabhakar DB1. So you can go ahead here and you can create SQL queries, and you can run these SQL queries on that. Okay, so here I'm using as a Prabhakar DB is a database, and as of now I don't have any tables, so I can create a new table here, create a table, and I'm using employee. Okay, and name and the varchar. So putting 10 characters on that and save that. So if I run this query, okay, so successfully it used the Prabhakar DB, and inside that it has created a table called employee. Okay, so let's comment it out this line. Okay, and I'm inserting some values inside the DB. Okay, employee, and followed by the query values. Okay, I'm putting some values here. Okay, so let's put here some of the additional values. Okay, so after that so you run the query again. Okay, so it has created 4 more new entries, and all these 4 records are inserted on the DB. So if I again file SQL select query, select name from employee. Okay, so I can see the result on that. Here is the result. Okay, this is how we can create a Aurora DB instance with MySQL compatibility and PostgreSQL compatibility, and we can also create a cluster on this, and the cluster level operations we can perform it. One cluster we can keep a multiple DB instances, and it is very fast compared to MySQL and PostgreSQL. And so after that, so hopefully this labs give you a chance to work in with RDS Aurora DB instances, and we come to end of this lab. And thanks for watching this. I will see you in the next lab.